Hello and welcome to the Not So Epic cooking show. Tonight we're cooking a spaghetti bolognese type meal inspiration. It won't have spaghetti, it's going to have a lot of vegetables. A lot of people tell me I'm not cooking spaghetti bolognese, so we won't call it that anymore, and I appear to have spilt my tea down my shirt. Step one of making a good bolognese meal is a cup of tea. Helps you relax. So you've got to have that. Now, first off, you got to put some oil in your pan to fry up your mince. Get in there. Oh, there we go. Then you turn your pan on, get it to heat up a bit. I've got turkey mince tonight because I quite like turkey mince. You got to check to make sure they have put paper on it. You don't want to tip the paper in your frying pan. There we go. And the second part, I've got a kilo of mince here. I'm making a nice big batch. There we go, and you can hear it starting to sizzle. Now you can get a spoon and start to just stir your mince up a little bit. Oops, don't flick it out of the pan like that. And just keep going until it browns up a bit. Add some more oil if you need to. That was a bit much, but it'll fry out of it. So while that's starting to fry up a little bit, we're going to chop up some of our vegetables, ready to add to it as soon as it's browned up enough. So to start with, I'm going with some pumpkin. Nice homegrown in my vegetable garden pumpkin. You want to give that a slice, mind the little bit of mould there. We'll cut that off, trim that all up, and that won't hurt you whatsoever. You want to give it a nice little trim so you don't take too much of the pumpkin out when you're doing the seeds, the guts of it. And make sure you give your mince a bit of a stir as you're going. It smells beautiful. Obviously most people wouldn't have pumpkin in a bolognese, but I had some I wanted to use, is pretty much the basis of why it's going in there. And it'll taste nice. Pumpkin's good for you. So you want to just cut off your skin ever so softly. Just don't cut yourself. Pumpkin can always be hard to cut up. And just trim that off. All good. And I've got a bucket of scraps here to go in my vegetable compost. Right. Because bolognese normally doesn't have big chunky pieces, we're going to try and dice this up, just hodgepodge, but smallish, just so it'll won't stand out as much, just like this. We see my biggest pieces are about that size, no bigger than a 20-cent piece, just all different shapes. I'm not too uniform, I'm not a chef. Just remembering to give your mince a stir. Beautiful, it's coming up nicely. Still needs a bit more of a cook though. Right, and we'll just keep going with the pumpkin for a minute. So that's our pumpkin chopped up, all nice and done. We just give this bit more of a stir. It's browning up slowly. I might need to increase the heat a little bit. It's still about 50% pink. Next we're going to chop up our capsicum. You've got to have a nice capsicum in your meal. Use as much of it as possible, so trim it right round the stalk. Don't leave anything to waste. And once again, we're going to try and keep this in smallish pieces to try and maintain the less chunky bolognese aspect of bolognese. So our piece is about this, about the same as the pumpkin. I'll keep it a little bit separate because this is getting to about 80% brown now. So what I'm going to do is put my pumpkin in, because pumpkin will take a little bit more to cook, and everything else is a more water-based soft vegetable that just doesn't need as much cooking. So we'll get the pumpkin in there to start to soften up, and then it'll make our cooking time a lot smoother. And I'll turn the heat back down a little bit again, and then we'll just get into our capsicum. Now I leave the seeds in. I have no idea whether you're supposed to, but I feel that they're perfectly fine to eat. we'll just chop her into rounds and then we'll just dice those up. So I ended up just taking the seeds out because they didn't look too appetizing. Normally they're just a whitey green colour. These ones had a little bit of an off colouring to them, so I took them out. This has got to about 99% cooked. So we've just got our pumpkin there softening up a little bit. A few chunks of mince that are still a bit pink, but that's fine. So we'll leave this on a low heat still. And we've got our capsicum chopped up, and we'll move on to our celery. As I said, this is a very different bolognese to how people would traditionally make it, but you've got to have a nice bit of variety. So you just trim the leaves and the end off your celery, and then I just kind of fork that so I can just start slicing it and not end up with too big a chunks. Everything's being about the same size. I'll split that up halfway and just get some small chunks of celery. So now while this is on a low heat, we're just going to put these in because I'm running out of room on my chopping board, and it'll give it a chance to start to cook up the vegetables a bit. So this is what the mince is starting to look like. As you can see, a lot of green, a lot of yellow, red really stands out. So that's what we've got at the moment. Tea's gone, I'm very relaxed. Now what we're going to do is cut up our onion. I think onions normally in a bolognese, so that's not too off track. Just one onion, because there's going to be a lot of vegetables in this already. So we've got a kilo of mince, and then we've got our other vegetables. We'll just top and tail our onion, and then split it, so we can just peel the bits you don't want. So we're just going to dice up our onion, the same about space as we have been. You know, everything's going to be about the same size, and we'll just give it a good trim. Obviously the onion is in chunks like this, but it'll fall apart a bit as it cooks, so you won't even be able to find it in the meal once it's done. Chuck that in as well, since we've already got the other stuff in. It's starting to look beautiful. What we'll do now is I normally add in a little bit of water. There's a bit in my pot here. Bit hot, just a little bit of water, and then it starts boiling the vegetables in there rather than frying it like a stir fry, because you're going to add in a sauce anyway, and then it'll definitely get to the more boiling stage of things. So there's no need to fry it all. I'll just turn it up a little bit so it starts to cook a bit more. So what we're going to go with next is our champignons. Now, I don't normally use champignons, but my partner likes them compared to normal mushrooms for whatever reason. So what we're going to do is, we're going to strain the champignons in our strainer, and I normally run a bit of cold water over them just to wash any of the strong flavour that's in the water in the can. We just tip them in here, like so, the last couple. And then just stir them through. That's a lot of champignons. There is half as many champignons as there is mince. So it's very mushroomy. As I said, we're going to have a lot of vegetables, and that's what we're getting. It looks really nice. Next thing we're going to add, 4 beans. You got to have beans, guys. Beans are a beautiful addition to any meal. I normally use butter beans, but I like to change it up a bit sometimes. So the same again, we're going to strain them and then wash some of the the juices of the tin out of the beans, just so we don't get a really strong yuck flavour. So here we go, we'll get our beans straight into there. And this is where it starts to not resemble a bolognese. But we stir that through, and that, whoop, some escaped, throw it back in. That's starting to get a nice look to it. There's a little bit of water in there just boiling away, keeping everything hot and steamy. Excuse me. Our pumpkin, if we just push into it with our spoon, is still very hard. So what we might do is crank the heat up and put a little bit more water in there and try and get it in a bit of a a low bath of water in there, so the pumpkin can boil up more than anything, because you don't want semi-hard pumpkin by the time you finish. And I'll probably need a bit of water in there anyway to help with the sauce. So we get there like that, tap that off. So if you look in there now, this is what we've got with our champignons, capsicum, beans. It all kind of blurs in there with the brown mince. That's the turkey having browned up. There's a bit of beans there, capsicum, and the camera's starting to fog up. Oh no. So you've left your mince on a low heat, boiling it away with that bit of water we poured in before with your vegetables. My pumpkin's gone nice and soft now, so that's well and truly cooked. What I'm doing now is, as I said, I've got no spaghetti. I've got some veal tortellini. You might think veal with turkey, that's a bit odd. It is definitely odd. I didn't think through the fact that it was veal tortellini and not a pumpkin ravioli or something, but I'm using that anyway. And instead of serving the bolognese on top, I'm just putting it straight in with the rest of it. I like just to mix it all through and get it all through it, and then you just got one thing to dish up and you don't have to worry about plating. So we get that in there, and that's really filled up the pan now. It's about half a kilo or a bit more of tortellini, and we've got our kilo of turkey and our kilo of beans and mushrooms and a bit of other vegetables. There's a lot here. It's going to take me a long time to eat it all. I'm going to put a bit more water in there because it's boiled dry a bit, and we want our pasta to soften up quickly, because I probably should have put it in a bit sooner before our pumpkin completely softened up and everything else cooked. But we'll get that in there like that, and we'll just leave that to soften up for a few minutes, and that doesn't take long to cook at all. I think if you read the packet it says 2 minutes, so if you get a good boil on that for a minute or so, you can then add in your sauce. So our pasta's been boiling away for a couple of minutes with our mince, and I say boiling, there's only a little bit of water. I had to add a little bit more in, just to keep everything very moist, because if it starts to go dry, you dry out your mince, your pasta won't cook because you want that nice steam, you want a bit of water there boiling, really helps with that. Now, for a sauce, because I don't make anything from scratch, I'm going with the Dolmio Extra. It's a tomato, onion and roast garlic. It's even got the Heart Foundation National Seal of Approval, so it must be good for me. It's probably not. I'm not going to be able to open this. This is going to be great. Alright. God damn it! Oh! Wow. Yeah, upper body strength for the loss. So we're just going to tip this in. Of course, there's no specialty to how you put sauce in a meal. You got a spoon. Hey Nick, how you going?
It looks good.
It does. Nick's actually a trained chef, so when he says it looks good, you better believe that it is. Now, obviously there's a bit left in here. We're going to fill it with a little bit of water and give it a swish around with the lid back on, because we want all the sauce. You don't want to just waste it. Just give it a good shake like that. Yeah, that's come off the walls, and she is empty. Of course, we want to stir this through. I'm going to turn the heat up a bit more. And you might, depending on how saucy you want it, depends how long you want to cook it and whether you want to add in a bit of water just to thin it down a bit. This seems very thick and not much sauce for the amount of everything else I've got. So, might add a bit extra water because, of course, we've got a couple of kilos of everything else to half a litre of sauce. It's not very much. Well, there we go. Might have to find something else to put in it to expand the sauce without losing the flavour. You just give that a stir. This is starting to fill the pan right up. It's getting hard to stir without me flipping it everywhere because I'm a messy cook. Yeah, that's made this really thick, and I want it a bit saucier, so I'll turn the heat down a bit so I don't have to stir it. I might try and find something else to improvise with. Now, of course, this is what I mean when I say it's getting a bit sluggish. See, there's not much sauce there at all. And I'm going to have to improvise, find something, and I'll have to have a look for that. Because you want a saucy bolognese, you don't really want it any other way. And you can see the tortellini in there now, and it's all starting to look very nice. So I've rummaged through my fridge, my pantry, and I've come up with tomato and capsicum pesto dip. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I quite often put dips in things. If I get a nice cheap dip, I'll put it in my cooking. It adds nice flavour, makes things a little bit creamy. So we're going to microwave that because it was actually in my freezer because I got it reduced and I froze it for an occasion like this. So I got it in the microwave and we'll work out, we'll put it in for about a minute and try and get that to soften down. So we've microwaved our pesto and tomato and capsicum dip, and so it's gone to a nice runny consistency that's still a bit icy, and it's very odd and chunky looking. I think it might have a bit of hummus in it or something, I don't know. But we're going to stir that through. Hopefully that'll give a bit more of an intense flavour, so when we put a bit more water in to spread this sauce out, we won't lose our flavour. It won't matter if we do, but I'm hoping not to. So tip a bit of extra water in there, try and get that saucy like. And we'll plug our frying pan back in because it uses the same plug as the microwave. Right, nice heat, and we'll start stirring this up again, getting this nice and saucy. Stir your pesto through. Now I'm only going to cook this for another minute or so because the pasta's done, everything's done. It looks all very nice and yummy. Probably just need to get our water boiling, really, and then it'll be done. So, the sauce didn't work, the flavour didn't really spread, it's not really intense. I didn't want to add too much water and thin it out and ruin our tomatoey flavour. So we found some Lego stir-through tomato and roasted garlic. So this is quite an intense flavour, I've been told, so we're just going to tip a bit of it in there. Just a bit, that's a lot. Whoops, that was a bit much. Kind of slopped out. We're going to add more water, enough water to get the sauce we want, and then just boil it down for a minute until we get the right consistency. So we're just going to stir and boil and just make sure that the flavour, maybe add some more of this if we need to, but it should be nice. So now we're all done and we're going to bowl up. Once we find the spoon is here. So we're going to have two nice big bowls full. Oh, the consistency, you see that? You can't see the consistency. I got the sauce right and the flavour tastes good as well. So we're going to bowl this up and we'll do some after shots of my lovely bowling, not plating, I suppose it's probably still the same word. They're very full bowls. We're going to be very, very full. So here we have it, the finished product in our bowl with our cheese. It's beautiful. We've got a lot left over. This was a dinner for 2 and we have enough food for about 10. I hope you guys like my cooking. You can somewhat copy my recipe, if we can call it that. Comment down below, tell me how good you think it tasted. Like, subscribe, show your friends. Tell me if you want me to cook anything else because I cook for myself most nights of the week.